In this video, we're going to create two views from scratch and a button that allows us to toggle between the two whenever it's clicked. In order to have two views and a button that toggles between the two, I'm going to need to start by creating two different colored backdrops. So to do that, I'm going to go to the bottom right of the interface where it says Stage, and I'm going to hover my mouse over the Choose a Backdrop button. Now I'm going to select Paint because I want to use a completely different color that doesn't exist in the built-in backdrops. Next, I'm going to make sure that I have this Draw Square selected or Draw Rectangle, and then I can make sure that my square fills up the entire stage and that it's the right color that I want. So for example, if I don't want it to be this purple color, maybe I want it to be pink, I could select that and color it the way that I want. Now lastly, before I go on to creating the next view using the same method, I want to name my backdrop something appropriate so that if anyone else is reading my code, they can understand which view this is supposed to represent. Now remember, we're going to have two views, and in one of them we're going to be able to take attendance, and in the second view we're going to have the list of students. So let's just call this list view for now, and let's create another view and call it take attendance view. So I can go back to the bottom right, or I can go to the bottom left and make sure I select Paint Backdrop. So once again, I'm going to choose a different color. Let's go with blue, like I did in the first video. Maybe make it a little bit darker. And I'm going to draw a square and drag it over to make sure that it covers the entirety of the stage. And I'm going to name this Take Attendance View. Now I can see that there's another backdrop in here named Backdrop 1. I'm just going to delete this one because we just need two backdrops, this list view and this Take Attendance view. And now that we have these two backdrops, let's use the sprite that's currently on the stage to toggle between the views. So how do we do this? How will the sprite know which backdrop is currently showing and which one it should switch it to? One thing we could do is create a variable at the start of the program named current view. So let me go into variables and name a variable called current view. And at the start of the program, we'll set it to take attendance. So let's make sure that we take the when green flag is clicked block. And now we have a variable that we have set to take attendance when the green flag is clicked. At the same time, we can make sure we go into the looks palette and we switch the backdrop to take attendance view because that's what it should be. And now the way that my toggle button is going to work is that if I click on this cat, even though it's not going to be a cat for too long, if I click on the cat, it should check to see what the current value of current view is. And if it is take attendance, then we have to make sure that we switch it to the other backdrop. And so it sounds like we could use a conditional to make sure that we switch to the correct view. So what I'd like to do is check to see what the current value of current view is when I click on the sprite. So if I go to events and I check to see when this sprite is clicked, I can use a conditional statement. I can check to see the value of current view and see if it equals take attendance. Take attendance. Now to actually get the value of current view, if I go into the variables palette, I could drag in current view, check to see if it's equal to take attendance, and if that is the case, then we want to switch to the other backdrop. So I'm going to go to looks, and I'm going to switch the backdrop not to take attendance view, but to the list view. And I could test this out right now, because right now the current view is take attendance. So when I click on the cat, it should switch to the list view, and it does. The problem is that it doesn't change or update the value of current view. So if I click on this cat again, nothing happens. So what I want to do is after I switch the backdrop to list view, I want to make sure that I change the value of current view. So I'm going to reset it to list view. And let's test this program out again. So I'm going to click on the green flag. So it's going to set current view to take attendance. It switches the backdrop to the take attendance view, which is blue. And then if I click on my cat, we see that the current view has switched to list view. The value of it has switched, and the view is now pink. The problem is if I click on the cat again, nothing happens because we haven't added any code to the conditional statement in the else. And what we should do is we should switch the backdrop. If it's not take attendance, then we must switch it to take attendance view. So I'm going to go over back to the looks palette, and I'm going to make sure that if it's currently list view, we're going to switch to the take attendance view. So this is what I want. And we have to make sure that we change the variable, or we reset it to take attendance. And this should do it. If I click on the cat multiple times, it should toggle between the two views, and you can see in the top left of the stage, it says what the value of current view is. Now we're not completely done here because we don't want this cat to be the toggle between the two views. We actually want it to be very easy to understand what the user is clicking on. So we're going to go back into costumes for the sprite, and we're going to create two costumes for this sprite. Let's paint them also. Let me create a toggle that is going to be, let's go with green. And it's going to look like a rectangle. And I think I could add some text here. So one is going to be list view. Right now the color is still green, so I got to make sure that I make it black for the text. There we go. So let's create one more costume here. And in the first video, I created a go back button, but we could actually name it attendance view. I'm going to center it as best I can, and there we go. We have our two toggles. We have the list view and we have the attendance view button. I could delete the first two costumes, the two cats. And now we have to make sure that we name these so that we can change the code and make sure that it is easy to switch between the two. So this is going to be the switch to list, and this costume 4 we're going to rename to switch to attendance view. Let me add view to the end of this just so that it's very self-explanatory. And now in our code we have to make sure that when we start the program the correct costume is set. So in the beginning, when we switch to the take attendance view, we want to make sure that the costume is set to switch to list view. So if I click on the green flag, now I can click on list view. And if I do click on it, that this costume now switches. So let me switch the costume to switch to attendance view. And we're going to do that inside of the if part of this statement. Now if I test it out, I see that I can switch to the list view, and when I click on attendance view, it doesn't switch back to switch to list view. We have to add that switch costume inside of the else portion. So once we are in take attendance view, we have to be able to switch to the list view. And so now if I test it out, we have our list view, attendance view, and we go back to list view every time that we toggle it. So I think this is a good place to stop for now. In the next video, we're going to work on our students and make sure that we have the two costumes, whether they're absent or present, and we could switch between those costumes when the students are clicked. I'll see you in the next one.